kind of like the Buddha. Okay, all right. Thank you, everybody, for your patience in waiting for the technological world to come to us. Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to our live audience and our folks on live stream there across the country, wherever you are. Welcome to the Portsmouth Athenaeum. Today, the Performance Committee at the Portsmouth Athenaeum has the pleasure of welcoming poet Mary Buchinger. Mary is the author of 6 books of poetry, 3 chapbooks, and has received multiple poetry awards and nominations. She's served on the board of the New England Poetry Club and is a professor of English and Communication Studies at the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences in Boston. In addition, she was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ecuador. Poet Sharon Tracy wrote the following words when reviewing Navigating the Reach, a book of poetry by Mary, which received the honors title at the 2024 Massachusetts Book Awards. Buchinger's poems unspool in lovely narrative lines across time as she triangulates the self with distant points. Home, where she grew up in Michigan, her garden back east, an offshore island in Maine. Each a touchstone, a place to weave a cloth out of the contrails of family life and memory, a gossamer net. She often chooses an aerial view from which to make meaning and to remember. She finds signs everywhere. A hawk's shriek ricochets. A hawthorn speaks. A river goes numb. Trees don't stop teaching, even as they reach. And as I mentioned, Nisa is in the back to help us purchase Mary's books, if we like. And Mary, after the reading, will be happy to answer questions from the audience, if you'd like, and sign our books. I do want to thank Tom Hardiman here at the Portsmouth Athenaeum and all the staff at the Portsmouth Athenaeum for their help in helping us get this event together, and also Olin Johansson, who's helping to prepare the live stream. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Andrew Moore, our wonderful chair of the Portsmouth Performance Committee, who's worked really hard to make this event possible, as well as all the committee members, many of whom are here today. Thank you very much. Mary, please, we can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. It's very generous, welcoming. I'm so happy to be here. I know it takes a lot of work to put these things on, and I really appreciate it. Honored and thrilled to be here. So, yeah, Poetry Month. It's nice we get a whole month. T.S. Eliot famously said that April is the cruelest month. So let's give it to the poets. But I think, what was he thinking about? I'm not sure he was thinking about 50 degrees and toward the end of April, almost May. But I think, it is this season of extreme change, right? We really are having to move out of our winter routines, and we have to think about spring. There's so much promise, and there's also so much potential for all kinds of things to go wrong as well. So spring is we're on the cusp here. And the poems that I wanted to read today are all having to do, or most of them having to do with the idea of emergence. So coming out out of the cold, out of the dormant period, and change, which is not always easy. So I'm going to start with a small poem called Germination. It's about a seed germinating, beginning to sprout, and just thinking, as Susan mentioned, I did grow up on a farm, so lots of seeds. I have a garden. I'm sure there's some gardeners here, but just thinking about a seed's experience of germinating. Germination. It isn't a choice. The sluice opens. The little seed shakes. It breathes, hurts, shudders, and swells. Something gives, and it becomes what it's never been before. And then the next poem I want to read, the title comes from Walt Whitman. The title is Uttering Joyous Leaves All Its Life. And this poem is about a tree in the Fenway that I passed by in the spring, and it has a huge hole all the way through the trunk. It's just a little flowering cherry, but all the way through the trunk. So it's kind of inspirational. Uttering joyous leaves all its life. I greet the ancient flowering cherry on the green bank of the fens. This tree, gnarly, narrow-waisted, speckled with deer moss, leans toward my path. Its brittle branches bear torches of blossoms that stand in the air, making the sun bend, a messenger whispering in the many ears. In its trunk, a hole broader than any of its living parts. I kneel and slip my arm, hand, wrist, elbow through the wide cleft, edges round with mending. I wave to the other side. And the next poem has a quote in it from Whitman. He wrote about that phenomenon of when you gaze into water and there's the sun shining down, and it's like these spokes coming out, creating kind of an aura around your head and your reflection in the water. So I include that quote in this poem, Unbound, which is also, I'm thinking about the different pieces and how they make the whole, and things being bound and unbound. Unbound, and it's a poem in parts. 1. A gray-blue shadow draws my eye into a succession of masses piled in the sky. Each cloud bears its relation to light and to others. I watch a wisp of cirrus tuck behind the many-storied Prudential. Seagulls, windows, cars, street meters scatter the sun. A skyscraper ripples on the river, and I see Whitman's fine centrifugal spokes of light round the shape of my head in the sunlit water. Loose ends make the whole whole. 2. A path leads me through the fen's untidy banks of reeds, where red-winged blackbirds scold and wobble on tawny stalks. Seeds take flight. 3. Yesterday, I held a mourning brooch that Fanny Longfellow once pinned to her dress. A ring of broken black onyx surrounds its glass oval window. And curled inside is a lock of brown hair from the head of Henry's sister, dead at 20. 4. I stop to watch a golden retriever race through an open field of late winter snow. The dog in morning sun is a bundle of riotous ends, bounding with a cache of light, its own spoked halo. And then I'm thinking about, this is also from the newest book. This actually came out last month, so it's a month old. I'm going to read a poem. It's called Parable of the Moss Piglet. And the moss piglet is, it's a tardigrade. It's a tiny, it's called a micro animal. It's 2/100 of an inch long. It's known for its persistence. It's lived through 5 extinctions. It can just be dormant and dry for like years and years. It can turn into almost like glass, and then it can be revivified. So it's just this really remarkable creature known for its resilience. It's also called a water bear and a space bear. It moves kind of like a bear. And it's also called a moss piglet, which I love the name. Parable of the Moss Piglet. I am what can happen when most reduced. Jaws and claws, pigment cup eyes. I'm shaped like a barrel and move like a bear. My tubular mouth, a sucking pharynx, armed with stylets. I stab the everything I eat. Indomitable, I thrive in ice, in fire. When very dry, I vitrify. Call me space bear, water bear. I bear it all, orbiting Earth or stuck in a paw. I make the way for predators and prey. 5 extinctions I've survived. A gray, nearly nothing, but alive. Okay. And so then I'm going to read one section from this book. The Book of Shores came out in 2024. And it's a series, it's really 7 poems, 7 long poems, 7 sequences. And they're organized all around shores. So there's island and archipelago and peninsula, seaway. So I'm going to read Continent, which is also quite lively when you think about it, and kind of constantly emerging. And so it's a sequence. It's several pages. Continent. Ragged-edged remnant of what once was whole. Riven and bandaged with rivers and ranges. Violent beginnings that echo still. Consisting of a crust, as in a pie or a scab, with more and other below. Lift its lithosphere, as you would the lid of a chest, Pandora's treasure. Inside its childhood, you'll find the mechanics of beginnings. Ocean, sperm, washing machine, toe bone connected to the foot bone, crocks of fat and jars of honey, hard-boiled eggs, neon tennis ball, hypodermic needle, and embroidery thread. A mystifying navel string, the blue, moldy roots of everything. The body of Continent behaves with elasticity and breeds synchronicity, nearly always one more syllable than you thought, 1 layer, 1 mile more. But when the fault line parts, like fender from car, uprises the layered inner geography. Driving into the day, fox den and headlight, tubes, battery, graveyard spurge. Liquid earth wobbles down its highway in weary orbit. And hang on, this tectonic bed we share, its floods, twisters, fires, quakes. Roomy enough for shelves and plates, younger mobile belts, the Himalayas, the Urals. Round and round it goes, slippery magnets on a spinning planet. Continent, because we need a container for the gorges and the falls. When I was a child, I dreamt the continent filled with creatures. Wild among the wild, I rode on crustal rafts above the molten core. Soon I learned the mineral self, the heavy sediment. Oh, do not stir. Cerium, erbium, thulium, ytterbium. Settlements of sediment, rare, rare earth. What elements I'm made of. This restless matter of mine I now conserve. Continent is that which hangs together, retaining its shape of origin, a netted whole with a beating heart, newborn in my arms. Can a continent demand regard? A manuscript once appeared as many multicolored squares pierced together in the middle with yarn. I fitted the pieces this way and that. They began to accumulate, to cover my body, my bed. They were green and yellow fields below my wing. Walled cities, nation states, principalities, the whole partitioned political earth. Some days I eat continent. It's ginger, mushrooms, rosemary, salt. Day unto day I examine it, probe its contours, its soft hills, the places where it bends, where it opens, its hungry regions and mossy passages. I want it to surprise me. I believe possibility dwells within its rifts and escarpment. Something in there, making new, an immensity that will not diminish. That was from the Book of Shores. And now I'm going to read from Navigating the Reach. And this was the collection that Susan had read from a review of, and this won the honors for the 2024 Massachusetts Book Award. So this book, so a reach is a narrow body of water between two larger bodies of water, and I was on an island in Maine, Norton Island, for writing residency, soon after my father passed away, a couple weeks after. So it was a time for me to really immerse myself in thinking about him and also in the landscape. So that's the title poem, is Navigating the Reach. I wasn't planning to read any part of that, but my family was from Michigan. I did a lot of flying back and forth to see my mother and my father. My mother's 95 and still going, and still in Michigan. So there's this small airport that I would fly into. I still do. I shouldn't put it in the past tense. I still do fly into this small airport. This is called Dementia Diary number 5. On the descent toward the small airport. I know my parents wait for me, and that when we turn toward home, my father will again point out the place a plane crashed decades ago. I remember my high school gym teacher couldn't stop talking about it. How we picked up body parts, books, shoes, purses, all that luggage split open. Vials, perfumes, pills, pajamas, sprawled on the wet grass. But it wasn't his job to sort things out. He was just a volunteer. When I land, I will be daughter once more. My father astonished, happy to see me. Right there, he'll say, a plane went down. A plane went down. Right there. A plane. There. And the next poem I'm going to read, it's a part of a poem called Killdeer. And the killdeer is a bird that is famous for protecting its nest by faking an injury. So it's like it has a broken wing and it tries to distract you from where the nest is. The parent will go out and make a lot of noise, just shout, kind of whatever it's called. Not really shouting, but it says killdeer, killdeer, and to take your attention away from the nest. So I grew up on a farm and was often, in the fields with my family, my father. So I'm just going to read part of this poem. It's definitely a spring poem opening the field. So this is from Killdeer. On the first warm days at the farm, my father pulled a spring-toothed harrow with the John Deere in the flat brown field, leveling the tilth, readying, and I rode beside him, balanced on the green fender above the giant tire, the fat-tracked tread spinning below me all the colors of earth. Throttle opened wide, we'd piece the field, half to quarter to eighths, round and round, slowing only at each turn. Put, 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 by the mucky, clay-hipped ditches, cut by shiny culverts. I loved the air and thrum, this manly puttering along, drumming of dirt. In the sun, in the wind, I lay hum. In the sun, in the wind, I lay hum, la hum. Flocks of glaucous seagulls from Saginaw Bay followed like chaos close behind, swooping down to feast on the newly bared grubs. Their kia-mew-mew, ha-ha-ha, rising above the metal tine clatter, the galloping carburetor. Though it was my job, my father usually spotted her first, her awkward dance, wing held out from her small body, that pod of hollow bones. Killdeer, killdeer, she cried as she floundered just in front of the gyrating tractor tires, where cold shoveled clods of rough-waved dirt and stubble waited for us to come break them into workable ground. Somewhere there, her nest. Almost always the killdeer's broken wing ruse worked to save her pebbled cradle of eggs. Engine cut, my father and I would jump down from the tractor, hunt the gray-brown field for her gray-brown cluster. One time, less than a feather away from the dual front tires. What crushing, we were capable of. My father would stake the nest with a white handkerchief flag, and the spring planting would obey, a zig of the drill that dropped the seeds, left a comma in the summer fat field, long after the fledglings had flown away. And I also, from this collection, I wanted to read this poem. It's called Visits Home. Just a strange idea, right? To visit home, right? To visit. So it's kind of asking that question. And also, this was during the years that my father had dementia, so a lot of trying to remind him of who I was, that I was there. So, because I've been living in Massachusetts for 40 years, so back and forth. Visits home. Visit is to come and go, to arrive, then leave, to be all of oneself in a place, and then to take that self away again. As soon as I arrive, I am small. So familiar, these accents on my tongue, these smells in the kitchen. Old appetites return, surprise me. How can you visit what you can't leave? Or leave what doesn't leave you? I walk in the door and they hug me each time 2 pies cooling on the counter. My father takes hold of my hand, squeezes my fingers. Oh, you're home. Looks again to make sure, blinks, checks his hand for mine. My bag is heavy and I struggle with it. I am me and not me, whole swaths of myself missing or turned invisible. Who is it they hug? My father and I visit. We come and go. I come, he leaves. He visits the world again and again with wonder. Oh, when did you get here? Hi. Hello. In my dream, I sit in the soft saddle of a sable brown rabbit. Its broad shoulders hold me. My hands clasp its tall, translucent ears. Sun streams through as we fly through the air. I wake to the day of leaving again. Oh, this is where we were going? Bringing you here? Holds my hand. This is what we're doing now? A kiss, a hug, a kiss. Please, no tears. You're going away? Then I have 2 more poems. These are both about insects. I'm thinking about spring. First one is kind of silly, but it's kind of fun too. It's called A Convo with Califera. And Califera, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Califera are grasshoppers. And specifically, the family is called Califera, and they're the chisel bearers. And I guess their ovipositor is shaped like a chisel, so they can make a hole in the soil and deposit the eggs. And so it's a conversation with the Califera, the chisel bearers. Kind of like an interview conversation. What did you give up for that iridescent wing? The larger sky, the bowl of blue, the arms of the gray-brown giants who rule. I wander and whistle in the forests of grass. How do you hinge? Such sharp departures, so little oil. I have leathery wings and veined wings, claws, spurs, spines. 5 molts brought me here. Do you course with beetle juice? Are you made of circumstellar dust? Hemolymph is what flows through me. My grasshopper heart pumps and percolates my gin. I, most ancient of the chewing herbivores, am a miracle of spiracles. My mid-gut Malpighian tubules hum with the sun and rain of 1,000,000 millennia. Winged walker, how is it you hopscotch and skip? What child lives within you? I launch myself into flight. This is how I do it. Flex, contract, extend, bow and arrow I am. Do you ache when you sing, strumming into dusk? I stridulate when I'm happy and the weather is lovely, dry leg against dry wing. I say, let's have babies. I say, let's stick together. I say, I feel so very fine today. How do you know what you know? I set my setae and pulps erect and sensing. I keep my tympanal organ taut. Why weren't you named phosphorus or flash or sss for your incessant scissoring? I am who I am. So what does your chisel do? The chisel makes us us. It burrows down into earth, nudges away debris. We place our eggs in a pod, glue them over with froth, chiseled, sharpened against extinction. And the last poem I'm going to read is also about an insect. I was watching it break out of its pupa and just was amazing. Just spending time with this insect. So it's called The Ministrations of Wings. It was luck, I thought, or necessary, to bear witness as I lay beside the tombstone where a cocoon stirred in a windless corner. A self-propelled heave-ho of the little pod. The grass-green chrysalis waking. Something grown too big, too uncomfortable, too confined. Suddenly urgent from inside, strengthening or listening to some other voice. A different station tuned in. No longer enough to be wrapped and attached to a granite marker. And I've felt the cousin of this feeling, fitful and on the cusp. Imago from green seasons and sun, a miracle of mush, of worm to flight. Gymnastic genes, gyrations of Genesis. The promise of spring here on this gravestone. I settled in to watch the spectacle of one thing becoming another. The change already there, just to unfold and ungather. The chrysalis cracked its lid, lento, lento, as segments of leg emerged, uncrumpling, claw, tarsus, tibia, femur. A slow climbing out, trochanter, coxa, curled knot of wing. Each fresh arrangement completed, inhabited, abandoned for the next. Then the arching of the abdomen, its sheen wrestling into light, its whole being tasting, tense, it trembled. This ardent insect life, The brilliant green, the glistening iridescence. Where is this in me? I felt my body dying as I lay there and watched the painstaking leave of place. The gleam dulling beneath the hardening hand of air. I tell this emergent winged thing, you will fly off. The worm still inside. In my own dreams, a shadowy cellar filled with decanted liquors, the womb of my mother never far. Time flickers us, turns us silvery, humming and brimming into its ministry. I swear I got up from that grave that spring. I did. Didn't I? So I think we're having some questions and answers possibly, yeah?
This is a little question, but the last, piece that you just, the last piece that you just went through, what was the insect? I kept on thinking it was a beetle because it was iridescent and it can fly a little bit. What was it?
I would love to know.
Oh, okay. All right. So this is more of the qualities and whatnot.
It was a real, I was last night, I was looking for my photos because I took about 75 photos of this thing as I was doing that, and I couldn't find them.
Oh, okay. So it's not like the flower thing where you can photograph it and it'll show you on your...
Probably I could have, but I
Yeah.
didn't know about those apps then.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, was it a chrysalis? Was it a pupa? Like but I watched it break open, and it was. Yeah, I really honestly wish I knew. I'd like to know the names of things.
Mary, we know each other. So
Mm-hmm.
listening to your poem, I got a poem for you.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And it kind of, it was right, it started coming to me when you were reading Dementia 5, but you preceded it obviously by Continent and Reaches. So I'm just gonna, this is what came to me on my napkin, if I can read it. Your poetry is full of richness and depth, very layered, liquid in flow, in memory, continents and reaches, self-memory, killdeer memory, earth memory, collective generation memory, time memory, dream memory, God memory, existential memory, memory behind the memory, no memory, filling spaces but empty, snow melting in soils and rivers and moss piglets too.
Thank you, Jeff.
I will type it out so you can actually read it.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Wow, that was.
Could you please just talk a little bit about your process, like how you come to a poem? Do you go back and back, or to discipline, or free flowing, wheeling?
Wow. So I thought it was interesting when Susan said, you can read a poem every day. I do start my days with half a dozen poems. I love to be reading poems. It is a very economical way to get to a very different place in terms of, your emotional right? So my writing, I'm afraid my husband could probably tell you I'm writing all the time. I am a walker, so I walk miles a day, and that time of walking is really a productive time for me. So it's when I'm thinking about things and trying to put words around what I'm thinking and feeling. So I do a lot of revision. So it's, writing stuff down, and then I really work. So, these poems are, I was telling my students, and it kind of freaks them out, but I have a poem I worked on for more than 20 years. So it's a poem about my grandmother flying because the wind took her up off the ground, and it was just a remarkable experience that she had. So I do a lot of revision. I work with friends. We talk. We read our work together and talk about it, and very grateful for that kind of. When you are reading and reading each other's poetry, you connect in a way that you just really don't with otherwise, right? When poetry, it just brings you right to the essence of things quickly, and I have some really amazing friendships around poetry, based in poetry. Thank you. Sure. Is it back there?
Oh, sorry. I like your poems because they are full of, they're full of organic imagery I find attractive and interesting.
Thank you.
And also, I understand them. How do you feel? I have a problem with poems I don't understand. I mean, I'm not particularly stupid, but there's some. I had an uncle who wrote sonnets that I simply could not understand, and I would read them, and my mind would go totally blank. How do you feel? Or are there poems you don't understand that you still enjoy?
That's a really good question. I have to say there are poems I really don't understand, but I still enjoy. And it could be a play of just the sounds. I love the sound of language. My background is linguistics. I have a doctorate in linguistics. And so sound is really interesting to me. But I do like things. I like to be able to make some sense of them too. It's very satisfying, right? To feel like you know what's going on. I mean, part of me also enjoys having the possibility of multiple readings of something that I can bring myself to it and have, maybe a different reading than someone else coming in with a different set of needs or expectations but it's a really good question. And I know there are poems I start and it's not going to be the poem for me that day for sure. And I move to the next because it's a very, we're just temperamental, emotional creatures, and so different things will hit us differently at different times. So to respect that, I guess, yeah.
Your poetry is beautiful.
Thank you.
I had a question. I presume that you mostly teach younger people at the Mass College of Pharmacy. I was just wondering if so, how they are reacting to poetry and whether you're finding that they are attracted to this way of thinking and writing.
Yeah, I teach they're college students, for many, it's a very empowering experience to be actually writing. I'm having to do, because of AI, right, and just everything has to be on paper and in class and reading to each other. But maybe also because of AI, that makes it that much more satisfying when they see what can happen when they trust themselves enough to put together a sentence on their very own. It can get really frustrating. But yeah, my students have a lot to say, and when they find words that satisfy them and how they're what they want to express, it can be really, really an awesome experience for them and for me as well. Yeah, thanks. I love to teach.
One of the questions that you just kind of brought up.
Mm.
One of the questions that you just kind of brought up, AI, you will probably see this more than I would in my life. how does it affect, how do you think it's going to affect poetry of the future, or even right now with your students? I mean, what's happening from your perspective?
Yeah, it's really a very disturbing topic for writers. You know, I know that my work has been fed into that stew, so it's just what it's doing. It's just wiping out the individual, and that's, I mean, what are we but individuals? That's where our value lies. So, you know, often I just really have gone to all writing on paper. And even then, I'll have some students who don't trust themselves. They go and ask AI to write the thing for them. Then they copy it in their notebooks for me. And I'm like, you know, this is not your voice. Like, don't do this. It's the human voice that we value, right? And that's what's at stake. The individual perspective. It's just this soup, that word soup made of probability. And yeah, I find it super depressing. Yeah.
Hi. You may have answered my question, but I read somewhere that Milton's Paradise Lost was the greatest poem ever written. And so my question is, what's your opinion of greatest poems? And when did poetry stop making sense? As in, you know, like Dante, or, you know, the narrative poem versus
The lyric? Or
well, you know, a narrative poem that tells a story, like, say, Edgar Allan Poe, or maybe Dante's Inferno. Yeah, so in the modern era, poetry sort of disassembled itself and turned into something else.
yeah.
I guess what I want to ask you is there such a thing as the greatest poem? Because that's kind of a funny idea.
I think it's a funny idea. Yeah. I would have a hard time saying there's like one greatest poem. There's many amazing poets. I was very influenced by T.S. Eliot and loved his work, the Four Quartets. If you haven't already listened to, there's an amazing recording on YouTube of the Four Quartets by Jeremy Irons. It's just really, really awesome. I think maybe there are great readers. A lot of great writers there, but a lot of great, I mean, I think it does have to be that kind of mix of the poem hitting you in the right time and the right day and being what you need at that moment. Yeah.
It was funny because if you're teaching people in science, you know, then it's a thing of attention. And when I was reading this book once, it was called Admissions, and it was a brain surgeon that worked in Nepal. And so in his spare time, he would work in wood. And then I found out what eking was, when you had tiny little pieces of wood in there. And it just seems like you're really refreshed. It must be so much fun to do that because you're refreshed doing something that's different, you know what I mean, than you normally do, you know. And it's not really a question. I was just thinking that must be really great. That's all, you know. So.
Yeah. I mean, I love teaching. You know, my students are pharmacy students and pre-med, and they're, they're going to be PAs, they're going to be physical therapists, and but I also always get these students who come in there like, well, you know, I wrote a novel, and I have a screenplay, and you're just like, wow, you know, people are writing. It's but you're right, it's a different part of the brain, and there are many. You know, Carlos Williams was a doctor poet, and Rafael Campo. There is a tradition of physicians and healthcare people who write. And I think they complement each other in terms of what you're doing with your mind. Yeah. Really. Yeah, Atul Gawande. Wow, he's such an amazing essayist. He died young, yeah. Yeah, I can't think of the name, but I know the book, yeah.
Are there any more questions for Mary? Well, Mary, thank you so much. I just feel your poetry is so descriptive. I just feel really grounded after hearing all your beautiful poems. Yes, yes, it was really, really wonderful. So thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who came. I think this was a really special gathering for us all to spend the afternoon together, hearing Mary's thoughts and her poetry. And please join us for some wine and cheese and crackers provided by the performance committee in the other room. And thank you very much. Mary, thank you. Wonderful.